Welcome to Is It Wrong to Watch So Much Anime with Jason and John, as we give you a quick 15 to 20 minutes of inside opinion and updates about the world of anime as we see it. This program is brought to you by the Parker Williams Branch, a Harris County Public Library. Let's go over the rules. This is a planned topics podcast. We will try and stick to the topic at hand and not have too many tangents. Number 2, while recording, we will have a 15-minute timer. We will try to wrap everything up within that 15 minutes. If we are having a good conversation towards the end of that time, there will be a bonus 5 minutes to wrap it up. Number 3, if the conversation is still too good to stop, we will stop recording that episode and start recording an overtime episode back-to-back released on the same day. And a fair warning, spoilers happen. Oops, our bad. Hello and welcome to this episode of Is It Wrong to Watch So Much Anime?
Hello.
Today's episode is going to be about light novels.
And their anime adaptations.
What is a light novel? Well, a light novel is actually a book. Boo, books, boo. No, I mean, not really, no. We're a library. We're good with books. So it is somewhere between 10,000 to 5,000 or 10,000 to 50,000 words. Mm-hmm. And it's basically just a YA novel. So if you've ever read anything from the young adult section, it's basically that kind of a plot. Typically, they also are serialized. So there's lots of different volumes of the same characters having different either adventures or slice of life or what have you.
Depending on the series, it can go for a short run, a long run.
They usually have illustrations.
Yes.
So that's really cool because sometimes we don't get that, especially in American books.
It helps you. For me, I like it just because it gives you an idea of what the characters they want you to see and just gets it in your head easier.
Mm-hmm. So some become manga, some become anime, and some even become movies. Mm-hmm. So the month of November is also NaNoWriMo. And you're like, what is that weird word? Mm-hmm. So NaNoWriMo is National Novel Writing Month. And it is a challenge to write 1,000 words a day. So that's 30,000 words in 1 month. So some examples of some books that have actually been published from NaNoWriMo are like the Cinder series by Melissa Mayer, as well as The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern, Anna and the French Kiss, which you can also watch on Netflix, was in NaNoWriMo, and also another book by Rainbow Rowell called Fangirl. Now, Fangirl started off as a YA novel, and it spun off to a different novel called Carry On. Now, in this world, the main character, Kath, is a fan fiction writer, and she loves this whole world called Simon Snow. Simon Snow is basically just a thinly veiled Harry Potter. So in this, her fan fiction is basically Yao. Yao is boy love. Mm-hmm. And so what would have been Harry Potter and Draco Malfoy in this world is Simon Snow and Boz Pitch. So there's also a spin-off to that one called Wayward Son. So Carry On, Wayward Son. It's an old rock song.
I know the song.
Anyhow, so it's a mixture of angsty teen at college that have fan fiction with a Yao obsession that actually landed a deal with Viz Media to turn it into a manga. So you've got an American novel that was released about pretty much fangirl Yao, boy love, everything like that, that gets turned into a manga. So,
which is pretty cool because you don't really think of, places like Japan getting our stuff and liking it so much that they want to make it into like manga or things like that.
So lesson learned for everyone who is watching. If you're an American and you have a story, it still has a shot at becoming an anime.
It does.
So light novels themselves, they love super long titles.
I've killed slimes for like 1,000,000 years, which is actually me shortening that title because it's a very long title. Their titles are usually either super short and to the point or overly long, and there's not really, I think, a middle ground.
We call ReZero, but it's ReZero starting life in another world.
Yes.
Konosuba isn't just Konosuba. It's Konosuba, God's blessing on this wonderful world.
But then you have one-word titles like Toradora,
Mhm.
or Spice and Wolf, short and to the point.
But then you also have other ones which are like My Youth Teen Romantic Comedy is as wrong as I expected. And then when it gets converted into English, then it becomes just as long, except they put in snafu because America. Right.
There's Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai. They're also sometimes a little weird sounding, but that's just first impressions, and some of these are really great.
Yeah.
That's one of them.
Like I Want to Eat Your Pancreas.
Yes, that sounds weird,
Yeah.
but when you get to watching it, you'll see that it's actually a really very good movie.
Yeah, but then there's also compendiums, like Sword Art Online has the whole progressive line, which is like 20 novels, I believe you
Not
said.
progressive, the main one is.
Oh, okay.
I think, from what I understand, progressive is like his retelling of the main first arc. But yeah, there's over 20 in the main thing, and then he's writing this, and he's writing a bunch of other stuff. So he writes a lot.
But it's like 1,600 pages. It's
Yes.
like reading all of Shakespeare, but Eincrad. Eincrad Spear.
And all his other stories.
So
These people write a lot. But a lot of them write really good stuff, so who's going to complain?
So some of these become movies. So sometimes they'll parcel out parts of the different book series to turn into a movie, like in Konosuba or in Bunny Girl Senpai or I Want to Eat Your Pancreas.
So movies are usually either two things. When you're adapting light novels, they're either a standalone thing, like I Want to Eat Your Pancreas, or they, like you said, they're like sequels to the seasons of anime. So for Bunny Girl Senpai, that was the first season covered about 5 of the books, and there wasn't enough left for a full second season, so they went, hey, let's make a movie. And that's where you get the movie. It covers about 2 books, and now we just have to wait till season 2. On the upside, though, he is still writing them. He's come out with a few more, so who knows how long the wait for that will be, but it's good enough that I feel it would be worth the wait. And same thing with Konosuba. The first 2 seasons cover about 4 books, and there's 17 in total. So that's another one that runs like a lot.
Season 3. Just waiting for that. Season 3.
Because the movie is the sequel to the series, and I think that only covers like 1 book, which still leaves about 12, right? So that's a lot of seasons that they can make.
Yeah, guys, get on that.
And if not, I'm gonna have to buy the books, because it's a really great show. It's very funny. I guess putting it simply is just Kazuma, the main character, gets isekai'd, right? Into a whole new world, and he eventually forms a party with a goddess and a few other adventures.
Yeah,
and that's the super simple one, because I don't want to spoil it too much. I think a lot of the humor gets derived from their party dynamic.
Well, I'll just put it this way. Their party on the outside sounds super awesome.
Yes.
You've got like an advanced wizard. You've got a basically like a paladin knight type deal. And you've got a goddess, which acts as like your priest. So on the outside sounds super awesome, but like it's like the monkey's paw. Each one of them comes with their terrible, terrible circumstance that Kazuma has to, through his own ingenuity, self-sacrifice, and brilliance, and humor, overcome these humongous obstacles with his party of obstacles.
And it's just a very funny show. It's free on Crunchyroll. Yeah. So.
And you can watch the movie on Crunchyroll as well.
Exactly.
So
if you haven't started, you should definitely watch it.
So you had 2 that you wanted to bring up specifically.
Yes, 2 actual just anime shows. The first one would be the Monogatari series. I haven't read the light novels yet, but for this portion, I was thinking more of just shows that have been adapted from them and why they're good. So I chose Monogatari because it's one that seems to be very popular but not spoken about all that often.
All right, so the plot says basically a half-vampire student helps those afflicted with supernatural phenomenon, and the character arcs are broken up appropriately to the books.
Yes.
And it's kind of like Bunny Girl Senpai in the way that it has...
In their basic premises, it is. And then once you start watching, you see how these shows are different from each other and why they're each good in their own way.
But instead of it being a regular teen being afflicted with some weird thing, it's more of the monster ghost archetypes overcoming whatever their circumstance that turned them into that, correct?
Yes, stuff like that. So there's an actual kind of monkey paw thing that one of the characters deals with. One character has to deal with being literally weightless, as in they look exactly like, you know, a regular teenage person would, you know, according to anime standards. But when she falls down a flight of stairs and our main character catches her, he notices that she weighs literally nothing. And so he goes about trying to help her get her weight back. So it's stories like that where it's a little bit different from the norm than just helping girls with the... And it's not even so much him helping her, it's helping her so that she can do it on her own, which I do end up liking. The biggest draw for this show is the characters, honestly, all of them. Shinobu, Senjugahara, Hanakawa. If you watch all of it's a bit of a commitment, just because it adapts a lot of books. This author also writes a lot, and just the main series alone is about 18, and it's something I kind of want to start reading. So I feel the pain in my wallet already, but the show itself is very much worth it. And I think if it's even... And usually when you read books, it's because you want to catch something that maybe doesn't get shown because it had to be cut out, right? As with most adaptations, it's not a thing that's just solely for movies. It happens everywhere.
Well, we talk about Snafu a lot.
Yes.
That's because it's one of our favorite shows.
Yes.
So much that it's one of our favorite shows that he went and bought a bunch of the light novels and started reading them.
I did. I am on 7, which is basically the start of season 2, and I'm trying to pace myself just because it's still releasing in English. You know, it's still getting translated, and I don't want to catch up and then be like, while I wait. So I've been reading other things, but just from the first 6, which is season 1, as I was reading it, it just gives you more of the same, I guess, vibe. Having seen the show, and it goes 3 seasons and it tells its complete story, I know where it's going to end, but that doesn't ruin the series for me, because as I've been reading it, I get more insight into the various characters, because there's things like short stories that didn't get adapted or things that got cut out because with all the side characters. So a lot of the fun for that for me is being able to, you know, learn more about Kawasaki, the blue-haired girl. If you watch the show, you will see she doesn't get utilized a lot, but the times she seems like a pretty cool character, and they use her a little bit more in the books. The story, again, is still basically the same thing, but it's a very good story.
So it fills out all the peripheral characters that come off as 2D, and it starts making them 3D.
Yeah, even more so, because the show still does that exceptionally well, I think. There's not a lot of, you know, rom-coms, or even there's more anime in general that have side characters that are very funny and very sweet, but they're not usually more than that. And this one takes all of them and makes them, you know, more multi-dimensional, easier to relate to them. So that's one of the reasons I really like this show and the books.
So compared to American movies, there's a lot of story cutting from these books. You know, it happens because it's really hard to make a true to life, you know, adaptation. Adaptations are kind of their own thing. So it's like in Lord of the Rings. If you read the book, there are a ton of scenes that are cut all the time. And they're little scenes, and they mean, I don't know, having seen the movies, they take all the important parts, but these are like, you know, extra flavor, that extra information that would be nice later that they'll explain visually in a movie. And American movies do that pretty well, but some people just don't get it, and they're like, huh? And you have to explain it. And being the book nerd who read the book and then saw the movie, then you explain it, and then they're like, oh, okay.
But like with all that, I think the opposite end of that spectrum is that sometimes movies can do something better. They can enhance what you're reading in a different way. So, for example, I Want to Eat Your Pancreas. It tells a story about a high school boy who finds a diary called Living with Dying. And that leads him to meeting Sakura, the girl who was written said diary. And she's suffering from a fatal pancreatic disease. They don't really go into exactly what it is, but this girl is dying, right? And throughout the whole movie, and I bought the book because I really did enjoy the movie so much, and I read through it, and it's pretty much the same. It's a really good adaptation. But the climax feels just a little bit different when you're reading it versus in the film when they're actually animating something to go with it. And I think that things like that are why you shouldn't just write off movie adaptations, because they can always add their own spice or flavor to it that helps enhance what you think you already know.
So a good example of that would be a book that I read called All You Need Is Kill. And this is by Hiroshi Sakurazaka. And it's basically a book, well, they adapted it from the novel to a manga. Then the manga made the jump to the silver screen. And you're like, oh, well, I've never heard of All You Need Is Kill. Well, that's because they renamed it to Edge of Tomorrow. Starring Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt. Emily Blunt.
I think I saw the movie, but it was so long ago that I don't really remember.
Yeah. Well, we could talk about the movie at a different interval. But that means that even American studios are interested in Japanese light novels. I mean,
they're leaning towards making more stuff. You've got Cowboy Bebop coming out, and that's also anime. So there's been talk of a Steins Gate live action thing coming out, and I'm kind of scared about that. But I think it just goes to show that all these things that seemed kind of niche before are just getting more easily accepted, I guess, and being put out into not just Japan or people who just like anime, but are being, brought into like Hollywood, things like that.
Well, our last thing we're going to talk about for this one is a little story called Train Man or Denshin Otaku. Now,
you showed me that one.
It's a story that started on like this Japanese message board.
She's like early Reddit type thing.
Yeah, think ancient Reddit, all the way back in 2004. An ancient Reddit.
Ago, yes.
And basically, it's a nerdy guy who helped a girl out from a drunk guy on a train and sparked this romance with her. And he was asking for advice. Where do I go? How do I level up my coolness so that I'm not so lame? All these sorts of things. And it spawned 2 different manga series. It spawned a movie. It had a TV series as well. So this simple story that started off in basically a message board got turned all the way into all these different visual formats. And even in 2018, American TV producers were interested in making a musical version of it. I don't exactly understand.
I don't know how that would work, but I mean, again, adaptations don't have to be one-to-one.
Yeah, that is true. But yeah. So, yeah, something as simple as postings on a Reddit board can get turned into an anime or a manga. So don't, if you've got your story and you want to write it, somebody might be interested in making more out of it. And to answer all of your questions right now, yes, Harris County does have light novels available. And any that we don't have available,
you can ask us to get.
Yes.
Some of the ones we have readily available are Log Horizon. We have the first volume. That show's really good. And then, you can check it out. We have it in our system. Another one we do have is I Want to Eat Your Pancreas, actually, because I looked it up today. I was interested to see what we have. And it's a really good read. And once you read that, you can watch the movie. And then you can feel the emotions that come with that.
All the fifis. All right. That's it for us this time around. So thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.